Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Good afternoon, everybody. I know it's a challenge. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a hot day today. But I really hope, the content that I'm sharing with you today will add value and make you stay awake for this, I believe, 45 1 hour that we have together. So welcome to the session. As mentioned, thank you, Rosalie, for the warm introduction, and also Team Magic, awesome job that you're doing as usual. What I like to do today is pretty much do a quick recap of what Growth Wheel is all about. How does it relate to you as an entrepreneur or as somebody who's looking at your business or organization? And we will go into some of the tools. The focus is about how to develop and sustain lasting customer relationship. And then I will also showcase some of the decision sheets that will be able to help you make decisions and take action. We will be sharing the tools later, maybe tomorrow. We will be uploading those for those who are registered. So I do encourage for everybody who are on FB Live, if you have not registered with Magic Online Academy, please do so, because there's so much resources that you can get there. So today, as I said, we're going to talk about actionable strategies with Growth Wheel, how to develop and sustain lasting customer relationship. And there is 5 focus area when we're talking about sustaining lasting customer relationships. And we're talking about networking, marketing, sales and service, communication and PR, and branding. These are the focus areas under sustaining lasting customer relation. So just to give a brief overview that what we have done for the past, I believe, 4 weeks, we start from where you are, and we did a 360. How do you do a 360 assessment? Again, if you're registered with Magic, you will get the assessment tool. Then we went and we talked about business concept. And the last session, we talked about, I believe, organization. And we talked about recruitment. We talked about how to get the right people for the organization. So now, today, we're going to talk about customer relationship. And we're going to look at how can you use these focus areas, these tools to help you move ahead. Okay. Again, definitely, no business if you don't have any clients, no business if you don't have lasting customer relationship. And definitely the focus area is different. Again, I like to iterate that depending on where you are in the company life cycle. If you're a pre-startup, you're about to start a relationship with your customer. Whereas when you are pre-growth, and maturing, you already have a group of customer, validated, purchasing your business in the sense of product and services. So you already have validated segment markets that you are already addressing. So again, focus really depends on where you are in the company life cycle. And the second thing I like to emphasize is that although we're talking about the green section of the 360 perspective, as if you haven't had the opportunity, go and have the look at the first session we had when we talked about 360 perspective of a business, where we looked at the 4 challenges faced by all businesses, whether you're a startup or you're already established. 4 challenges are business concept. How do you develop, sustain a business concept that is great? Then you want to talk about how do you build lasting customer relationship? How do you have an awesome organization supporting you in giving out value to your clients? And finally, how do you have a productive and profitable operation? So those are the 4 challenges broken down into 20 focus areas. So it is a visual checklist, and it is what we say is a visual checklist, and it is a building block. Meaning, if you are a startup, probably most of your focus area would be in the yellow zone of business concept. Whereas if you already established business, you probably would have moved along to the green, which is your customer relationship or your organization or your operation. However, speaking from experience is something that I was having a conversation with Rosaline just now. From my experience, I realized that a lot of organizations, although they might say initially when they do their 360 assessment, they said, my issue is my marketing or my branding, or I have my challenges with my, hiring the right employees, or, I have challenges in my financial management or getting money to fund my business. Fundamentally, a lot of scenarios that I've come across, that it still goes back to your business concept. Okay, at least one or two focus area, the actual challenge or the actual problem that you're facing in that challenge is because of your business concept. So don't be surprised if we're having a conversation with your business coach or having a conversation using growth wheel, that you will realize whatever you see as what you think is a challenge for you at that point of time is just a symptom of an underlying deeper problem. Okay, so that's where, to us, when we talk about the 360 assessment, we are really looking at, what are the things you really need to focus, and why they are the focus at that point of time. Is there an underlying cause that perhaps needs to be addressed before you go in deep into what you want to do? So that's why when we talk about this assessment, the 360 assessment, we actually use it as an initial conversation that we would want to have with you as an entrepreneur, to understand from your point of view, where do you think you have a challenge? What's your focus area? And for us, if I'm working with you or anybody who's your business coach, will basically be asking you what makes you think that's something you want to focus now. So our role is pretty much to challenge you. Even if when you're doing this in your team, the role of your team members is actually to challenge the thinking process. Is this really the challenge, or there's something underlying that you need to address before you can give a solution to the problem that you're facing? Okay, so I think that's the thing that we need to have clarity. And to me, that's very important for us to do our internal assessment. Definitely, if you go to any agency, example, SME Corp has this score rating. And the score rating is quite, I would say it's not, it's objective. It's an objective way of measuring the effectiveness of the management of the company. Okay. Just that how they do it is based on documentation, based on proof of the SOP or whatever that you do is validated by evidence of documentation. So it's pretty much, if it's documented, then they will consider tick. You have it, you have the system. Unfortunately, the challenge, and being an entrepreneur myself, I know how it works, that I might have a system, I might have it documented. I have my vision, I have my mission, I have my ISO 900 or 1900 or whatever it is. But the question is that, do we really apply it? Okay, do we really do as per needed to make it effective? So having just a measure that's objective, saying I have the documentation, doesn't really share with us the truth. So this 360 is your truth. It's nobody else's truth. There's no right or wrong in it. There's no one way of doing it. So don't feel like you have to have all 100 or, to showcase how great your business is. It doesn't matter, because what matters from this assessment is to understand where you really need to focus. So this is the conversation I have with my entrepreneurs that I work with. They're saying, like, you have to be really clear about why are you giving those ratings to yourself, to reflect on it, so that we are able to address what are the things you need to do now. So it is a reality test. It's an as-is test that you don't win an award out of it. It's just to start the conversation, to get the ball rolling, to understand where do you want to focus at. So as I mentioned, in a lot of scenarios, even if you say your focus is either customer relation or organization or operation, I always imagine, especially the initial conversation, there would be one or two focus areas that shift From, for example, when you're talking about your marketing, it would shift towards maybe looking at your customer portfolio or looking at your business idea. So it might shift in the initial conversation to something in the yellow zone. All right. So just to create some clarity, so you don't think that, the first assessment is that's it. This is to start off the conversation. Okay. Right. So I really appreciate, ladies and gentlemen who are with me today, especially if you've been from the very first session, to take the opportunity to do the 360 assessment. And perhaps you can use that to share with Magic so that we can come up with programs that will address, hey, what are the main focus areas you want to look at based on your assessment. So it is evidence-based from your perspective, So when you use growth wheel, it's not from my perspective as a coach, but rather from your perspective as an entrepreneur. What is your issues? Okay, right. So just to create some clarity on that. Okay, so once we've done that, you do that, and for today we're talking pretty much about this portion of the business model canvas. This portion of the business model, where we're talking about your customer relationship, we're talking about the channel. So if you have done your business model canvas, you definitely know that customer relationship and channels really depend on your customer segment. So that's why I was mentioning, if you have problems with your marketing, you probably sometimes need to really look at your customer segment, your customer portfolio, or even your value proposition. Are you hitting it on the nail, or you need to pivot and change? So those are the questions you need to ask yourself, because that's the basis, the building blocks towards building the lasting relationship. You need to make sure you are clear with who your customers are and how do you want to reach them. And that will help you further with making the decision moving forward. So just to show another visual on this, as you see here, when we're talking about customer relationship, we're looking basically all in the green area. When we're talking about networking, how do you leverage on your network? Because to me, network is mostly underutilized by a lot of entrepreneurs. Especially we Asian, we tend to be shy in selling ourselves to our friends and family, because you do have the bad experience of people overselling themselves until the point that, you don't want to welcome them for Hari Raya because they probably want to try to sell you something. So there are ways and means on how do we identify and what sort of messages that we can use to leverage our network. So that's what we're going to talk a bit later. We're going to talk about marketing also. What are the tips and tricks? Again, Growth Wheel has a few decision sheets which I'll showcase to you. We talk about sales and service. So what's the difference between marketing and sales and service? So marketing is pretty much the pre-sale things that you need to do. Whereas sales and service, you're talking about the selling process. Okay, the selling and the after sales process. Communication and PR is pretty much how do you communicate your value and how do you engage further with your customers. And finally, branding. How do you develop a strong brand that people always remember you? So these are the 5 focus areas when we talk about customer relationship. Again, one small box in business model canvas, you've got multiple focus area and multiple tools that you can use in order to help you move along. Right. So then I'm just going to go into each focus area. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to showcase you a few of the tools and maybe focus on one that is, to me, something which is different that you won't get anywhere else. Okay. So when we talk about networking, this focus area, it deals with knowing and expanding your network, including planning networking activities, mapping out your network and getting your network introduction and working on relationship maintenance. Okay, because if you ever read a book about being transformational and transactional, so we want to look at transformational relationships rather than transactional relationship. So you want to build your relationship to become transformational rather than transactional. So there are, if you see here from my slides, there are at least 5. If you talk about fundamental tools, there are 5 decision sheets you can use, depending on how in depth you want to go in developing your network, right? So there's 5, and to me, I like to start off with the network mapping, okay? Because then the tendency of having conversation about network, we just tend to do it on air, we just talk about verbally, but we don't really analyze how we can actually use our network to leverage for our business, okay? Again, looking at transforming our relationship, not just being transactional. Because when you talk about network, sometimes there are things that we develop now and we reap the benefit later. But we often, as entrepreneurs, we don't map it out. We don't understand who are our stakeholders. We don't understand who can bring value to us and how we provide value to them, directly or indirectly. So this is one decision sheet I like to showcase, which is pretty much about you mapping your network, okay? So you sit down with your team. So it's when you're talking about me in the middle, it's not just you alone, but the team that you have. Who do they know? And, what's the relationship like? So put down all the names so that it would help you as a business to see how you can create value for them and at the same time, them giving value to you. Okay, so this is a two-way relationship that you want to map out so that you will be able to leverage on it in order to help move along your business. Okay, so again, this creates clarity, it creates alignment. And when you already have very clear vision and mission and what's the value you bring to the business and to your clients and stakeholder, then you are able to pitch to all these people in your network with clarity. And you will create and also get value from them. Okay, so this is one tool that a lot of people take it easy. They don't think something serious about it, or they just, oh, by the way, I know. So by doing this exercise, you pretty much upfront would know what are your network strengths. Maybe you or your team member that you can bring to the table to help the business move along. Okay, so I'm not going to talk about, some people will say in Malaysia, they will say cable, they will say political, that decision is up to you. It's not for me to say anything about it, so just be clear about what sort of relationship that you have. So I'm not going to be, it's not going to be judgmental on my side. It's what works for you. So I'm not going to go into the sensitive part of, being political or, just be clear about what's the value that you're bringing in, how do you want to have that relationship? Of course, definitely me, I'm all about being all above board. So, make sure that whatever you do is aligned with the value of your business. Okay. So again, feel free if you have any questions or comments, please do share in the chat box, or if you are on FB Live, just write it in the comment section and we will have a look at it. All right, so that's network. So if you look, not only, once you map it out, if you look at the decision sheets, then you can actually say, what sort of network that would, then you will know where you are at this point of time. Then you will say like, okay, what sort of other leverage that you would require in order to go ahead in the industry. And then you would probably need to do things like, network activities, and then you will probably require referrals. How do you get it? So you can come up with decisions and action from just simply doing your network mapping. Okay, so I always encourage first, do your network mapping to understand what sort of network that you have, and perhaps people in your team, that's the strength that they bring in because they have the network. So never underestimate networking, because to me it's the most underutilized resource not being used by a lot of businesses. Okay, right. Next, I will talk about marketing. So as mentioned by Rosalind, Magic has, done a lot on marketing. So I'm not going to talk about pretty much about, what is it, digital marketing. But what I'm going to talk about more is about what can you, what actions can you take? What's the actionable strategies that you need to look at? So when we talk about marketing, again, if you are with Growthville, we do have an advanced tool set. If you're just specifically focusing on, improving your marketing and your sales. So that's if we really want to go deep dive into it. But fundamentally, we also have around 5 decision sheets that would address most issues that faced by entrepreneurs. Okay. And to me, the basic is marketing mix. And I think if all of us here has taken a business degree or a business related degree, marketing mix is something that you definitely would have learned during your university years. Okay. So what I like to look at is pretty much on one tool, which is the marketing message. Okay. Remember, we were talking about when you're doing your customer relationship, one of the things that we have to have clarity is which customer are we targeting, which segment are we targeting, and what is our value proposition. Okay, so those are addressed pretty much in our business concept phase of Growthville, phase of the conversation. So when we're talking about marketing message, we're talking about what do we relay to our customer? Okay, so here we want to make sure we convey the right message. Okay, so it can't be just ad hoc. It can't be something that you just leave it to your marketing guy or you leave it to your salesperson to do it. You can't. You actually have to have clarity of what is the message your product and service wants to convey. So this decision sheet actually helps you develop that marketing message. Okay, so you can use it to look at what is your core marketing message that you want to put across. Okay, so they give you like a checklist. What are the things you can look at? For example, here you're talking about the company. Because remember, when we want to get people to buy our product, the best way is that when they trust us. So how do you convey that we are a trustworthy company? Okay. What about the product? Why should they buy that product? So what sort of messaging do we deliver to them? Okay. So again, having clear vision and mission and value of the organization helps you in crafting your marketing message. So in this process, in this decision sheet, pretty much helps you, guides you through developing your marketing communication so that whatever message that you convey is the right message for your organization, right message for your clients, okay, for your customer. So again, as I said, this is, if you're having issues but not knowing what message you want to, share with your client, then perhaps you need to relook at your customer portfolio and also, your product portfolio and things like that, and your value creation from the business concept. So that would be my recommendation. You perhaps need to spend a bit of time there so that it will help you get your marketing message across. Okay, right. So pretty much you are saying that you don't need to do all, because this is just a checklist. You don't need to do all. You choose which one you want to focus on. For example, your product is pretty much looking your focus for your segment. You're looking at quality. Quality is important to your customer segment, for example. So then your core messaging will be about quality. Okay, so to ensure so that you do not contradict yourself, because when we talk about quality and we talk about price, usually it is a contradicting element when you say, we have the best quality with the cheapest price. There's always a compromise. So this is where also you can help check and balance your messaging. Does it sound authentic? Does it sound true? Or it sounds like you're just coming with a fake message. Okay, so this allows you to test, to validate your messaging, to ensure it resonates with the customer segment that you're looking at. Okay, all right. So we move along to the next one, which is sales and service. Again, sales and service, this focus area is about strengthening your sales cycle, planning your sales activity, okay? And to work on things like customer pipeline, okay? And most importantly, remember we were talking about messaging. Now we also have to address, we are face to face, or we are in front of the client. We have to have a pre-mortem. We have to know how do we facilitate when clients have objections. They say, oh, no, I don't, I'm not interested in buying. So how do your team address objection, okay, that you might get from your customer or potential customer, okay? So that it would help to make sure that your sales cycle, your activities are aligned and you can close the deal quickly. So definitely never underestimate a sales script, okay? A sales script is really important. So if I could share my experience a long time ago when I was exploring what would I want to do in my life, one of the things I did was actually to sign up to be what you call door-to-door salesman, where, if you've been long, before pandemic, where you have people coming to you trying to sell pens, trying to sell some gadget while you're having your roti canai or your breakfast or your lunch. Well, I was one of them. Because I found it really interesting, and I wanted to explore what do they actually do? How could they have such confidence in coming up to you and trying to sell you something, and they don't know who you are, and they're disturbing the most important time in a day, which is the makan time, the eating time, the lunch time. So I was just curious. So I did sign up, and I frankly, I just lasted for like 2 weeks, but it was an experience for me because they actually have a pitch. They have a pitch ready for any situation. And how they teach people to do this selling is you would have a mentor, and you will be following this mentor. So when you are following this person, that person will be teaching you bits and pieces as you go along. They will ask you to do it, and they will observe you do it. And they will ask you how it, whether you could close the deal or not, and what did you learn from it. So to me, it was my first experience in coaching, in business coaching, in a situation where hand in hand with my then lead salesperson, following her to go and sell stuff, and she would give me bits and pieces of, what are the things I need to say, when do I say it, in order to close the sale. So to me, a lot of us don't really put effort in making sure that our people, our team, has a script, okay, has a script, especially a script when there's resistance from the client. So this is the one thing, apart from the other stuff that is available for conversation in Growthville. So let me just share the five decision sheets, that we can work on. One, I'm not going to do all because it's overwhelming a lot, but you've got the sales chain, the pipeline. You talk about what are the sales activity you could do, and sales objective and service offering. So the question is that once you identify that this is the focus area you want to work at, so you choose one area that you think is fundamental for you to work on. So for me, for today, pretty much I like to, because it's something really, as I said, underutilized, is the client dialogue. Questions to be answered with sales argument. They always say, who are you? Can I trust you? What do you deliver? They would say, do I need it? How much is it? Can I afford it? What's the rate? So these are the questions that people would ask. And these are the potential answers that they will want. So when you have something like a decision sheet that talks about, that prepares responses for sales objection, it helps the sales people to be able to, resolve the objection by clients. So this is to me a wonderful decision sheet to have for those, especially when you are doing sales, and the challenge that you have is your sales team do not have a message, a unifying message to address when they are facing objections. Okay, so the team would develop, what's the objection, but underlying what's the actual reason. They might say price, but in actual fact, they don't trust you. And what's our counter argument? How do we phrase it? And I would recommend that once you have this, you build it up as a dictionary for your company, your business, so that it will be in your, what do you call it, manual, sales manual, organizational sales manual, so that anybody who joins the organization will already have a template, your sales script. Okay, right. So again, any questions, any issues, please do feel free to type it up in the chat box, or I'll just rumble along happily. Okay, so then we talk about communication and PR. When we talk about communication and PR, we are talking about how to take advantage of media opportunities. Okay, and being now in such a digital world, there's so many opportunities. We don't rely like last time a lot on the printed media. Now we've got a lot of social media that we can use. So the thing is, the question would be, how do we take advantage of it? Okay, writing press releases, we're talking about social media communication, as well as planning online publication. So this is where we talk about communication and PR, because again, it does take a lot of time. It does take a lot of effort for the return that you want. 80% of your work in your marketing and your customer relationship is about communication. Okay, so you need to be able to how do I say, make the process faster and easier for you to manage. And in order to do that, that's where the planning comes in. Critical planning, so that you're not bogged down with doing it every day. Rather than perhaps you can plan it so that it'll be super efficient. So Growth Wheel does have, as I said, typically five decision sheets that you can use. And if you see here, they've got like, okay, what's are the media opportunities available? What is in the press release? What are the stories that we could share? How are we going to utilize social media? And finally, what is our calendar? Okay, so if we have all these things up front, it's easy for us to leverage on media for our communication and PR effort. Okay, so you don't need to start from scratch. Okay, and today I'm going to share with you a bit on media opportunities. So for us to actually map out, how are we going to use media opportunities? And please remember, media opportunities, again, depend on your client. Does your client use those media as form of getting information? If they don't, then it's pointless for you to utilize that form of media platform. Okay, so again, it goes back to your customer portfolio. Okay, so it depends on the industry you're in. Okay, if you're B2B, then probably you wouldn't be using so much about the retail sort of magazine or the lifestyle magazine, but you'll be using more on trade types of publication. So you need to have that clarity, and this would help your communication, PR, marketing team to actually be able to map out what's the right media and what's the key message that you want to do through the media. Remember just now we were talking about what's your messaging. You can actually use messaging in your media opportunities. Okay, so you map it out, because to me, again, when you talk about marketing, it's pretty much doing the planning ahead. The planning and then the execution throughout. Okay, so with this, you already decide which media opportunities you are going to take up, and then you will continue with the execution. What are the actions you need to take? Okay, so you're clear. You're not going to touch newspaper because you probably will say newspaper. People don't really read newspaper. Okay, but for that target group that you have, they don't read newspaper, you know, the physical printed newspaper. Although if you're targeted towards the baby boomers or the people who are of that particular segment, if they still use newspaper, then perhaps, you know, there's nothing wrong about you using newspaper as a media platform. So don't, you know, if somebody gives you advice, social media is the only way, take it with a grain of salt, because again, it depends on your client, your customer segment. Okay, an example, a good example would be FB. Okay, people, the study says that people aged between 15 to 20, they don't use FB. They rather use Twitter or TikTok, you know. So you have to know which platform for which customer segment. Okay, right. Great. Yeah. So next, the final one, which is branding. So branding, this is a focus area that helps improve customer loyalty by defining your brand and creating authenticity to it by identifying brand role models and deciding which certifications to get, all while protecting your trademark. So branding is sort of like, you know, when people look at a logo or a word or things like that, and it relates to you. So you want to make sure that it reflects you, okay? And it helps to have a really clear value proposition on your brand, so that whoever brand model or, you know, role models that you want to use would be aligned with your values. So there have been situations where the value is one and the brand role model is totally different. And if there's no alignment, it will create you know, the feeling that the messaging is not clear and you are not being authentic to your business. Okay, right. All right. Meanwhile, a question by I believe this is Coach Muhammad Yusuf. If we are creating the MC, it is media opportunity should mapping with customer segmentation for definitely. So when you're talking about media platform, it is the channel. It is the channel, and yes, it depends on the customer segment, as I mentioned just now. So you need to understand which customer segment you are targeting and match it with the platform that is suitable for that particular target group. So if your client or if the entrepreneur is not clear about which customer segment that they're targeting, then perhaps the coaches have to go back to the customer portfolio and have a discussion on that first before going into the platform, just to have a clarity on that. Okay, because I have had a situation, a training I did when I talked about BMC, and I was saying that an example, this particular example, which is a true case, this lady was selling tudung, you know, the shawl, the hijabs and whatnot. And she said that her target was everybody the age of 7 to 70, which is not, you know, you can do that if you have a lot of money. Then you can choose multiple platforms, you can have multiple messaging, because for you to use a platform, it does cost time and money. Okay, it does cost resources, you know, there's investment towards it. Do you have the investment to do that? If you do, 7 to 70, good. But if you don't, you've got limited resources, then you need to focus. You need to focus which is the biggest segment market you have, and understand what platform does that particular customer segment use. I hope that answers the question, Tuan Muhammad. All right, just give me a thumbs up if that answers your question. Or okay. Right. Okay. So I'm just going to move along. So when we talk about branding, okay, again, if we talk about branding, I definitely recommend one of the decisions perhaps you need to make is to work together with the brand consultant. Okay. That could be one of the decisions you need to make because you feel that you do not have the expertise and you need help. So that could be a decision from the discussion that you have with your business coach or with your team. Okay. Having said that, even if you're working with a consultant, they will still ask you fundamental questions about your business because they're not the ones who determine what is your brand description, what is the message that you want to come across, that you want to put across. What sort of type of labeling and how does the image look like? What is the color? What's the reason? Those questions need to be answered by you as the entrepreneur. So whether you are going to hire, get an external help with a consultant, or you want to develop yourself, those are the questions you need to answer. Okay, so that's why to me, one of the things you will look at is your brand description or even your brand authenticity. Or you can even talk about, you know, when you're talking about your business, who do you imagine will be a role model? Because you would imagine that role model carries your value, carries what you are about. Okay, so definitely if you are somebody who's like, you know, I'm just giving an international example. You're looking at somebody, you're talking about being natural, you're talking about being authentic. Perhaps you would look at Alicia Keys, or you will look at, you know, some of the other models who are, you know, don't hardly wear any makeup and live a natural lifestyle. So you wouldn't get somebody who's like the Kardashian to, you know, represent your organization because it doesn't tally with the, you know, perhaps the value that you are, you know, bringing, you know. So be clear, you know, so again, there's so many ways of going about it. You could entirely by yourself come up with your description and get the help from a consultant to create that brand for you, the logo or whatnot, or you can imagine who would be your role model and you work from there. So there's so many ways of doing it. Okay, so what I like to share today would be, okay, I also don't remember. So brand role models, because you're really looking at business and you say, what are the things that represent? So it doesn't have to be everything, but this is just inspiration. You know, maybe it's music, maybe it's fashion, maybe it's cars, maybe it's animals, maybe it's people. So, you know, when you're talking about your company, your business, you know, what represents you best? You know, what sort of music? What sort of fashion, perhaps, you know, if you were a car, how would you be, you know, like, for example, if you want to represent something which is classical and luxurious, then perhaps you say, you know, my business is like a Mercedes, you know, you pay the premium, you get the quality, the maintenance and things like that. But you could also be a Ferrari, you know, flashy, red, Lamborghini. So you are using that as metaphor to represent your business. And this would help your consultant to actually come up and develop the brand for you. Okay. So like it or not, hiring a consultant, it doesn't work if you don't have idea what your business represents. Okay. So that it goes back to that business concept. You have to have clarity in your business concept. What do you represent? What value? Where do you want to go? What's your mission? What's your vision? Who you are? What's your story? Okay, so you need all those to help your consultant to make it happen, because they would understand the psychology behind it. They will understand, you know, what are the best words, because they have got the research. So they do that legwork. What we have to provide them is what we represent as a business. So again, for brand role models, it's pretty much to get inspiration. Okay, it's not the end. It's just the inspiration to, so that it will help the consultant, and also in the end the client, to have a visual representation of who we are. Again, most of us, I believe, 70% of us actually are visuals. we tend to see and understand things when we look at it. So visuals are really important. You know, one good example, if you look at McDonald's, used to be a few decades ago, you have to write the whole name McDonald's to know what it is about. Now, you know, you just get that, you just do this and you know what they want to eat for lunch, you know. When my daughter was young, she just shows that yellow thing and we know that she wants her chicken nuggets. Right. So again, these are what I call some of the decision sheets that will help you in creating lasting relationships. To me, again, in the end of the day, a growth wheel is all about being a checklist, a visual checklist to help us think about what decisions we need to make and actions we need to take. You know, what sort of strategies we would want to have would depend on our business concept, depend on the customer that we have. And then to execute it, these are the decisions and the actions we need to take. Because to me, again, I find this super helpful. You know, the thinking of the framework is done. You don't need to think about what else. Did I miss out anything? It's all there for you. And it helps you create clarity that you already have the process. What you need to do is make decisions and take actions. So again, when we're talking about building lasting relationship, we're pretty much looking at your customer relationships. We're looking at the channels, okay? Because that's the one that ensures that your business is a business, okay? That your business has customer, that you are creating, you know, from your activities, you are capturing the value that you want in your business model canvas. So what I recommend also is that I believe we shared this in our, you know, the toolkit with Magic. Use the 360, 90-day plan. You know, write down, okay, once you have the idea of what's happening, immediately say, okay, these are the focus areas that I need to do. These are the decisions that I need to make or the actions that I need to take. Who are responsible for it? You know, again, always, you know, I always encourage, even if you're a solopreneur at this point of time, work, the best way to work is with a team, to have people to work with you. Even if they're just your subordinate, just somebody you employ, it's always best to work together as a team. And then you have to see, you know, is it going to happen within next month, 2 months, or 3 months for tracking? Because if you don't track it, you know, then the decision will just be something on paper that doesn't bring any impact to you. So I like to end pretty much one thing is to make decisions, okay? And the most important thing is actually to carry them out, okay? You need to have clarity. What do you want to achieve? What do you want to do? You need to know what decisions that you want to make, and then you need to carry them out. So Dua is asking, is customer relationship a cost or investment? Do we spend less in thriftier way, or do we spend more to gain more? So definitely one of the things you need to do. Thank you. Very good question, Dua. I think it's always a conundrum. It's always something that catch-22. You don't know, you know, is the egg comes first or the hen or the chicken, or which one do you need to do? Definitely, to me, a customer relationship is an investment. Okay, it's an investment. You need to invest. Okay. And to make sure that the investment is worth the investment is that you have to have focus. You have to know what is it you're investing, how much you're investing, and how much return do you expect from that investment. Okay, if you are clear about that, you know, then it is an investment. But if you're just spending money without knowing how much outcome that you're going to get from it, then it's a cost. Okay, because that money is coming out with no return. Okay, so customer relationship is all about investment. So that's why it's really important for all of us to put our thinking hat, you know, be clear about, you know, leveraging our network. What is the message that we want to put across? You know, what's our sales process? how do we overcome customers who don't want to convert? Okay, we need to be able to communicate, also develop a brand which is authentic and memorable. So these are all investments. And we need, as I mentioned just now, we need to know what's the outcome that we expect from it. And from there, we can measure, we are able to measure, are we on the right track? Is this the right decision? Is this the right action? Or do we need to pivot and change? Perhaps it makes us have to relook even our customer segment. Are we really addressing the right customer segment? Are we really using the right media platform? Having this checklist will allow us to measure the impact of our customer relationship. I hope that helps to answer you, Dua Kipat. I know it's a soalan yang you know the answer. You just throwing it out to me, correct?
I think Dua just testing. Is this a true coach?
Yeah, it's just testing. So yeah, to me, it's an investment. So again, the clarity of the outcome. You know, like I shared the story just now, this lady whose business is actually to jual tudung, sell tudung. And because she doesn't have the clarity, the outcome of how she wants to develop customer relationship, the channel and the relationship, it becomes a cost because you can't equate, you can't correlate the money you put in to develop the relationship with the money that you get back. In actual fact, there should be a correlation. It might not be direct, but they should have a relationship between the money that you spend for developing and sustaining customer relationship with the value that you get back. Okay, and it is known that sustaining and maintaining current client is much cheaper than trying to find one. Okay, it's 5 times much cheaper than trying to convert somebody who's never bought your product, doesn't know you, and you want to educate them, to get them to go through the funnel. It costs 5 times more than sustaining a group of clients that you have now. So that's why in times of crisis that we are facing now, you know, be transformational. Keep in touch with your clients. Say hello to them, even if they're not buying anything from you now. Okay, have a conversation with them, understand where they are coming from, what are the challenges that they face, and it might help you, one, to get new business ideas to help you address the crisis that you're facing now, or even develop, you know, another relationship moving forward. Okay, so they will remember you. And it's cheaper because they know you, they trust you. They know who you are, they know what your business represents, they know what, you know, your story. So it's cheaper that way compared to trying to convert. So to me, always an investment. Okay, right. So with that, let me see, what do I have? Yeah, thank you. Let's continue the conversation. If you can always link me up in LinkedIn at Safura Atan. I'm also in Instagram and Facebook. At the same time, I do encourage everybody, if you're on FB Live, especially, and you're not registered with Magic, please do so, because then we would want, and I think Rosalind will be sharing some of the things that we plan to do in future with, you know, with the facility of Growth Wheel, to see how we can further help you grow your business.